Do you perceive yourself as a person of profound depth? Have you ever wondered about the workings of your brain and the art of articulating its intricacies? Embark with me on a long journey. Discover how the field of cognitive neuroscience intertwines with the perspective of eminent psychiatrist and psychologist Carl Gustav Jung regarding the psyche and its distinct brain types. To commence, let us delve into Jung's concept of the psyche, the very foundation from which all his theories spring forth. The human psyche, comprising the corporeal, the intellectual, and the spiritual dimensions, can be delineated into three components: the conscious, the personal unconscious, and the collective unconscious. Akin to the body, the psyche has a self-regulating mechanism that seeks to preserve equilibrium by balancing its various functions. Furthermore, according to Jung, the psyche actively works towards its own development, a concept he coined individuation. However, Jung's psychological model is an analogy, not a rigid reality. It's dynamic, adapting as our understanding of the mind evolves. It's less to say that Carl Jung was ahead of his time. As per Jung's perspective, an individual's subconscious is a repository not only of their memories, but also of the collective memories of the entire human species. He posited that our subconscious harbors the recollections of our ancestral forebears, and this collective unconscious contributes to conferring order and significance upon the world. Now that we have delved into the psyche, let us explore one of his most captivating theories, an idea that, in my opinion, stands as one of the most influential in the history of psychology, the Jungian types, and how it may be explained by neuroscience. Giddy up, because this is going to be one complex ride. The theory of psychological types says our minds can have different ways of thinking and behaving. These ways often balance each other out. Jung believed that if one function is more dominant, the opposite shows up in our unconscious as compensating behavior. Extroversion and introversion are two opposite cognitive traits. If someone leans towards introversion, their unconscious tries to balance it by encouraging them to be more outgoing. In simpler terms, their mind nudges them to connect with others in the world around them. The functions of consciousness outline the diverse ways in which the conscious mind that apprehends reality. They are classified into two categories: the irrational, intuition and sensing, and the rational, thinking and feeling. Delving into the realm of neuroscience, Dario Nardi, since 2006, has seamlessly merged Jungian methodologies with cutting-edge EEG technology. Through the meticulous monitoring of EEGs during a 1-hour session encompassing a variety of activities, Nardi endeavors to decode the intricate interplay between Jungian procedures and patterns in neocortical brain activity. Electroencephalography, or EEG, tracks electrical potential variations over the scalp to determine how the brain is active and functioning. Cortical neuron activity produces ionic currents, which also creates an electric field and scalp potential. The brain is a puzzle with many small parts that work together. These parts, called neuronal circuits, do different jobs. While some duties are abstract, others are concrete. The outer ledger of the brain, called the neocortex, is essential for thinking. It has many smaller parts, about 5 dozen. EEG data helps find lasting biases in brain networks. The brain adapts its patterns depending on situations, like achieving a flow state or having creative brainstorms. Similar to an orchestra, the brain's parts collaborate effectively. Alright, let's start by unraveling the rational types from both Jung's perspective and the lens of neuroscience. Objective facts influence extroverted thinking. It's subject to outside views that affect its judgment. When thinking seizes control of consciousness, it turns into the regulating force that drives action based on intellectual concerns. Such a person defends logic, reason, and the unvarnished truth. Picture the neocortex. Our thinking powerhouse is a grand mansion. For TED types, the lights of this mansion are focused on the brain regions responsible for processing what we hear, see, remember, and decide, mainly on the left side of the brain. For TED types that rely on region FP1 to develop an adequate solution, all four crucial areas strive to advance evidence-based reasoning. Region FP1 filters away unnecessary information while noting environmental faults. Additionally, this area suppresses emotional reactions in favor of cognitive responses in deeper brain layers. When evaluating anything, introverted thinkers frequently use their internal clues or mental images as an indicator. While including tangible or intangible elements, personal experiences always motivates them. Because it doesn't have a meaningful connection to the object, it creates a weak link with the outside world. The intensity of this type leads to rigid views and emotional vulnerability. T-types emphasize four key brain regions for logical reasoning while tackling problems. F3 supports linear reasoning, F4 groups ideas, P3 incorporates visual data, and P4 balances advantages and disadvantages. They preserve objectivity in a collective mindset by detaching themselves from emotions. During debates, T-types activate these regions, showing noteworthy EEG activity and intense focus. The brain activity of the TED types frequently reflects their emphasis on social responsibility. They use neocortical areas that facilitate communication, behavior evaluation, future planning, complex problem analysis. They have notable activity in FP1, especially during conversations. FP1 suppresses emotions, fostering cognitive responses. Lower FP2 activity in TED types affects introspection and managing disruptive data, possibly causing depression. All TED types exhibit heightened activity in T5, facilitating adaptation to social feedback. Subjective factors shape phi. It prioritizes internal imagery over objectiveness to bring inner visions to life. They could seem uncaring or distant. When the ego identifies too closely with the unconscious, neurosis can develop and show itself as neurosynthetic symptoms. Phi types deeply listen, engage in all brain regions for voice, words, and sounds. This reflective state appears as a solid bright blue on the EEG monitor, resembling a tranquil mental lake. Region T4 evaluates motivation and intent when feeling wronged. They show modest activity in visual and kinesthetic regions, relying on left brain reasoning. Extroverted intuition, oriented towards external objects, puts a restraint on sensory responses. While sensations seem distinct, the unconscious influences them. The NE user seeks possibilities and optimism in external circumstances, consistently exploring new ideas but letting go when they lose potential. NE types often display a Christmas tree brain pattern like lights on a holiday tree. In this state, the neocortex is lively with various brain regions working independently. This pattern, known as transconceptual thinking, swiftly processes any stimulus, even seemingly unrelated brain areas. NE users frequently experience creative bursts. It's an innovative engine for thinking across different contexts. They engage regions supporting imagination. Introverted intuition centers on internal symbols reflecting unconscious traits. These subjective images symbolize the collective unconscious. Even when triggered by an external object, the introverted intuitive has abstract visions and focuses on the internal aspects they represent. The whole brain pattern of the NE type is frequently sun-like and is characterized by a synchronized neocortex with medium-low frequency, high-amplitude brain waves. This scheme reflects a conscious yet relaxed mentality. Ni users strive to synchronize their neocortex regions, seeking different perspectives like blind men, eventually arriving at a solution. Both the object and the subject influence extroverted sensation. The subjective aspect subsides when reason dominates. It's grounded in potent experiences and values tangible reality, sidelining cognitive functions. Suppressing the unconscious could result in anxiety, compulsions, and distress. The tennis hop brain pattern is frequent in SEA users. Tennis players gently hop while waiting for their opponent's return. This movement helps them stay agile and respond quickly no matter where the ball comes from. In this pattern, the entire brain appears inactive on an EEG monitor, but it's not. Each area subtly shifts frequency ready to engage whenever. SEA types often get bored because their brain chases action. The introverted sensation user sees the world subjectively, delving into collective consciousness and mythic themes. This lens imbues sensory experiences with timeless meaning. However, it can sometimes overpower objective reality, leading to actions based on illusions. For them, objects may appear as deities or demons, unbeknownst to them. C-type's brain activity reflects their expertise and training, enabling a smooth flow during recall. T5 processes social feedback, triggering behavioral adjustments. T6 activation aids future-oriented planning. Visual patterns are observed with a back brain focus on FP2 for process management. From what we know, there's the rational and the irrational types. In this part of the video, I will show you how to type yourself. And what I mean by typing yourself is how you're going to classify yourself in this typology system proposed by Carl Jung. So on the rational types, there's extroverted thinking, extroverted feeling, and introverted feeling. And on the irrational types, there's the extroverted intuition, introverted intuition, extroverted sensing, and introverted sensing. And these are the basics. So to type yourself, you have to know that there's a conscious. Sorry if my letter's a little bit sketchy. There's the conscious, there's the auxiliary, and there's the unconscious. You may be familiar with Myers-Briggs typology system, but I consider MBTI unreliable because its system is too superficial and it's also basically copied from Carl Jung. So on the conscious part, this is going to be your dominant function, your dominant psychological function. So let's say the one you identify the most is extroverted thinking, then your conscious is going to be that. And now, since extroverted thinking is a rational type, your auxiliary has to be irrational. And the same goes to if your conscious is irrational, then your auxiliary has to be rational, and vice versa. So your auxiliary can be any of these four. In this case, let's say you choose extroverted intuition. Then your unconscious, moving on, your unconscious has to be the opposite to your conscious. And now what's the opposite to extroverted thinking? That's going to be introverted feeling, because what's the opposite to thinking? Feeling. Opposite to extroversion? Introversion. That is why your unconscious is also going to be rational, but the opposite of your conscious function. And an easier way to type this is just ETN. And now what you're going to understand with this is that ET means extroverted feeling and N means intuition. It's a little bit broad because it doesn't specify that much, but it's the easiest way to type this. You could also say that ETN means te ni, because that's how you pronounce it, or like how I pronounce it. I pronounce extroverted intuition as ne because that's how it sounds to me, but you may pronounce it like ni or ne. I don't really know, that's your choice in how to pronounce this. But anyways, this is the way you can type it, and I'll give another example. So another example, let's say your conscious is introverted intuition, then your auxiliary is going to be extroverted feeling, and finally your unconscious would be extroverted sensing. Now how are you going to type this? You are going to type it like INF. Why? Because IN means introverted intuition and F means a feeling. And feeling could either be extroverted feeling or introverted feeling. It doesn't really matter, but it's the simpler way to write this. And another way you could write it is simply put in the terms like ni, fe. and that's, or here you could also write it like te ni. That's another way to write it. And so that's basically it on how to type yourself. You may find this helpful. That's basically how you do it. And that's a wrap. Thanks for sticking around throughout this intriguing journey into the mind. If you enjoyed diving into the depths of consciousness, consider checking out my essay about my project. Until next time, keep exploring the wonders of cognition.